All right, YouTube, this is Detroit's HPTV coming to you with another video. We've been having some very interesting politics going on in this country. I mean, the times have become very perilous, and you're seeing a lot of different things, with the violence, the border, the economy, inflation. But what we're going to talk about today is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Now, it's being reported throughout the news that the Democrats are pressuring Joe Biden to withdraw. They've cut, the funding, the money from his donors. They don't want to invest anymore in his campaign because they think he can't win. So Joe Biden, he puts it out there that when it comes time for the convention, run against him in the convention, which someone probably will, because we see that Joe Biden is rarely cognizant. You know what I mean? He has his moments where he can be cognizant, and then that's when he comes out his bag and he says stuff like, I know what a black job is. It's vice president. He made that statement like he was one upping Trump. He felt like when Trump said black jobs, he told him that a black job is vice president, not president. So it's no wonder that he says when he withdraw, he will not support Kamala Harris. He will not back Kamala Harris. Do you remember when they was running against each other back in the primaries before she became VP, and how she herself called him a racist and remembered him being a strong segregationist, and she called him on it, but all of a sudden they made nice with each other? You know, I find it very hard to believe that someone that you are convinced is a racist, that at some point that you can forget that that person is a racist for the sake of your politics. But he's not going to back Kamala. And people know that Kamala cannot win. See, the Democrats, they have become so delusional with Joy Reid and the D.L. Hugleys and the Roland Martins. And, really, I'm talking about their black political shields, because they are courting the black vote as if we the only voters that matter. Do you see them out there catering to the Asians that they gave a crime bill, or the Latino community, or even the white community? They act like the most important vote is the black vote. That's interesting in itself, because the black community is who they do the least for. So the rhetoric that they've been using is Trump is a Nazi, Trump is Hitler, Orange Man bad. You know what I mean? They've been going over the top with their rhetoric. You have a lot of them out there saying that the assassination attempt was staged, which is ridiculous. You know what I mean? That two people would uh, lose their lives on this day and other people injured, and Trump is already up in the polls. At the time when they say he was staged this, he was leading over Joe Biden in all swing states. Because at the end of the day, the American people are tired of the race baiting. You know what I mean? They have been demonizing from the left white males. You know, as a black man who can remember being demonized and called a super predator and crime bills, I can understand how the average poor white American feels when he's being demonized and they saying white privilege and they're radical. You know, the left, they continuously use the same playbook because it usually wins. You know, they use racial division, lies, mischaracterizations. Man, they use a lot of dirty tricks. But the thing about them is they are so conniving and dirty that they turn on each other. I pointed something out to my subscribers, and I said this on the channel. Trump over there with the MAGA supporters, they love and support Trump. The Dems can't stand each other. They just hate Trump and hate conservatives. So do you think a party that is motivated by hatred and disdain can overcome a party that's motivated by love, unity, and courage? The Democratic Party has become so debaucherous and so scandalous that you can see they are a den of snakes. You have Obama coming out the woodworks, pulling the strings, undermining Joe Biden. Because Obama ain't forgot that Joe Biden said he was articulate and clean. Obama knows that Biden is a racist just like Kamala does. Ain't he the one that said racial jungles, super predators? You don't vote for me, you ain't black. He know what a black job is as vice president. You know what I mean? Joe Biden continually shows how he feels, but for the sake of politics, they act like he isn't a segregationist and a racist until a time like this where they can come out and undermine him. So you got Obama pulling the strings, you know, Jill Biden, she doesn't want to lose her grip as first lady on the White House. So you got all these Democrats turning on each other. And now Biden is going to withdraw and not back Kamala Harris. But I'm glad he wouldn't back no Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris, sorry, Black Americans, she couldn't wait to get into office so she could tell y'all how much she learned from her Indian parents and how much her Indian culture has helped her be the person that she is and adapt in America. I did a video last week to show you how India is celebrating her accomplishments. The whole country of India is celebrating her accomplishments. Have you noticed? Never will you hear Kamala Harris say she's a Black American. She's never said that. She says she's a person of color, a woman of color. And she says everything but that, but she leads you to think that with the chucks and the dancing and all of that. But she has two Indian parents. They say the father is Jamaican. The only reason he's Jamaican is because he moved from India to Jamaica and his family owned slaves in the Caribbean islands. She is not Black. But the feminists and the women, they are so Trump deranged that they don't care if a foreigner, a foreign national, runs the country. You got Joy Reid, who's from Guyana, acting like she could speak for Black Americans. You got Roland Martin from Haiti acting like he could speak for Black Americans. The Democrats have filled their administration with foreigners. No wonder they will leave the borders open for new voters and the new uh, world order, so to speak, where they're at the top with their immigrant band of workers. That's what they're moving toward. But today, we're going to figure out the ramifications of what's going on in the Democratic Party, because Joe Biden will not support Kamala Harris. Y'all didn't see this coming? Did y'all really think that when it got thick that they was going to let that Indian woman represent them going up against Trump? Y'all been lied to. Y'all been run amok, led astray, bamboozled, hoodwinked, hoodwinked. Like Malcolm told you, y'all listen to the Dems and they collapsing and falling apart, and you still have their mouthpieces out here spewing racism and rhetoric and hatred, and it's ridiculous. Rats got more sense than most of you people that support the Democratic Party. At least rats will leave a sinking ship Y'all gonna go down with this sinking ship like the Titanic. They don't even support each other. But that's enough of my commentary. I want you to see the latest news on this. It's for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act, education, commentary, and the First Amendment. Check out this.
And now for our next news special report.
Got some bombshell breaking news tonight, folks. President Joe Biden is reportedly stepping down as the Democrat nominee. You heard that right. The man in the Oval Office is bowing out of the 2024 race. But here's the kicker. He's not backing his vice president, Kamala Harris. Instead, we're looking at an open convention. The Democrat Party is in free fall. So stay tuned for this special report. Our final thought will blow your mind. Now, folks, before we dive into this political earthquake, let me tell you about something that doesn't crumble under pressure. I'm talking about gold. While Biden's stepping down, the Democrats are in chaos. Gold is hitting record highs. It's like Democrats are in chaos. Gold is hit. That's why I need to call Global Gold Investment. Now, folks, we have got a political earthquake shaking Washington to its core. Newsmax has just dropped a bombshell report that's going to change everything we thought we knew about the 2024 race. So let's break it down. According to multiple Democrat sources, President Joe Biden has agreed to step down as a Democrat nominee. You heard that right. The man in the Oval Office is bowing out of the race, and this could happen as early as this weekend, and the speech has already been drafted. Newsmax broke the news. Let's break it down what Newsmax is reporting. Biden will continue on as president, but here's the kicker. He will not endorse Vice President Kamala Harris as his successor. Instead, he's expected to endorse an open process, letting the convention in Chicago pick the Democrat nominee. So this is huge, folks. We're talking about an open convention, something we haven't seen in decades. The regular delegates would vote on the first ballot, and if there's no winner, the so-called super delegates would get to vote on subsequent ballots. Now, you might be wondering, what about Kamala Harris? Well, according to Newsmax, she is not sitting idle. She's already looking at potential running mates to go to Chicago with a full ticket. Names being floated: Andy Bashar, the governor of Kentucky, and Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. But Harris isn't the only one in the mix. We're now hearing names, of course, like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan. This is shaping up to be a political free-for-all, folks. Now let's rewind a bit. Remember when the Washington Post dropped this bombshell earlier? Turns out Obama wasn't just talking, he was leading the charge to push Biden out. And he wasn't alone. Nancy Pelosi.
Now, I want you to think about this. We already know that Obama's policy was clearly nothing but LGBTQ community agendas. You know, he was the president of the Rainbow Coalition. Now, Biden, who Obama has always known was a racist, but for political reasons, on the Democratic side, they deflect, and what they call their opponents and adversaries is exactly who they are. When they say that somebody else wants to be a dictator, they're talking about themselves because they demonstrate all those attributes. But Obama is behind the scenes pushing Joe out the way, and even Michelle is making posts on X, formerly known as Twitter, begging the voters to vote Democrat no matter who they're finna slide in. And she's acting like, well, you know me yet. No, we don't know you, Michelle Obama. We don't know you. We don't know your husband. People voted on identity politics. Black people voted for you guys because of identity politics, because you looked like them. That's why you were able to stay in there and do absolutely nothing for the Black community, for Black Americans. Your whole mission was LGBT community. You came out, Michelle Obama, and praised Dwayne Wade for transgendering his son into a girl. And you talked about how, the people is tired of y'all, you know. And going to Chicago with the immigrant problem, Chicago is already flipped red. If you're talking about the black vote in Chicago, it is red. They flipped months ago due to the immigration crisis. You might be surprised Boston may flip, New York may flip, because the level of treasonous behavior coming from the left is not being unseen by people who had their eyes open. You are only fooling your slaves. Your slaves that come out there and your minions, they are towing the company line, but the American people see that you have betrayed the Constitution, the country, and its citizens. Let's watch some more.
Other high-level Democrats have been applying intense pressure. Newsmax reports that this sudden decision was reached because of this high-level pressure and the realization by Biden's top aides that there was no path forward for him to win in the general election. But why now? Well, the numbers don't lie. Recent polls have been showing Trump surging ahead. Let's hear what Fox News had to say about the situation just before this latest development. Watch.
Sharer. He's a serious reporter. He has good sourcing. I want to read from him directly. Former President Barack Obama has told allies in recent days that President Biden's path to victory has greatly diminished, and he thinks the president needs to seriously consider the viability of his candidacy. And here's the sourcing. Multiple people briefed on his thinking. This does not show up by accident, Emily. He has greenlighted, in my opinion, as someone who's worked in press, his aides to share this with the Washington Post.
Which is a crucial sea change, Kaylee. And actually before, Marie, when you were talking about it, in my head, I was like, no, he doesn't need to come out and say it because he did it non-verbally. When he guided the president off the stage, he showed the world the president's frailty. He showed the world that Barack Obama was still the elder of the party. Although, Marie, that made me feel like I'm an ancient. But at the end of the day, we are now seeing the materialization of the apparitions. Right? Because prior to this, for example, as former Speaker Kevin McCarthy said, well, Pelosi controls everyone, right? So Schiff coming out and saying that meant Pelosi told him to do so. Well, then we have reporting that Pelosi herself is speaking face to face with Biden and saying it's time to give this a rest. So what we are seeing is those unseen hands that we knew guiding those forces, writing the letter for George Clooney, telling him to come out. All of those forces are all of a sudden now saying, I'm putting my name directly out there. That represents a fundamental current change. And I think at the end of the day, we are now seeing Biden against the world.
As you heard, this is not just some accidental leak. The Democrat establishment has been strategically pushing Biden out, and now they have succeeded. Now, here's what gets interesting. Newsmax reports that some of Harris's allies believe this could actually be better for her. They think she can win the nomination on her own, showing independence and strength. But let's not forget about the money, folks. Biden has a war chest of millions of dollars, and according to campaign finance experts, if Harris becomes the nominee, she likely gets to keep the Biden-Harris money. Now, take a look at this eye-opening analysis from Trevor Goss, and he hits the nail right on the head here, folks. He's saying what many are thinking, but few are brave enough to say out loud. Let's break it down. First, Goss points out that the steal only worked in 2020 because Biden's polling numbers made it plausible. Now, I'm not here to debate about the 2020 election, but Goss is highlighting a crucial point. The appearance of competitiveness matters. He goes on to say that if they keep Biden now with his current abysmal poll numbers and somehow he wins, it would strain credibility. The results would be so different from the polling that it might raise serious questions. So here's where it gets really interesting. Goss suggests that if the election results don't match the polling by a believable margin, we might see something we didn't see in 2020. Judges actually hearing election cases instead of dismissing them on technicalities. And that, folks, is why the Democrats, they're terrified of. They can't risk a situation where the entire system of elections comes under scrutiny again. And that's why they're pushing Biden out now. The sudden move by the Democrats isn't just about winning in 2024. It's about maintaining the status quo, about keeping certain questions from being asked. They need a candidate who can at least keep things competitive in the polls, someone who can make a potential victory seem plausible. It's a high-stakes game they're playing, and they're betting that by ditching Biden now, they can find a candidate who polls better and avoids a scenario Goss is warning about. Whether it's Harris, Newsom, or someone else, they need someone who can at least make it look close. But here's the million-dollar question. Can they pull it off? Can they find a candidate in the next few weeks who can compete with Trump's momentum? Or have they already sealed their fate by waiting this long to make a move? And one thing is for sure, Trevor Goss has exposed the Democrats' biggest fear. They're not just worried about losing the election, they are worried about losing the control of the narrative. And that, folks, is why Biden is being shown the door. Now, let's not forget about the Republicans in all this chaos. They've been watching this Democrat meltdown with a mix of glee and strategic calculation. Here's what the RNC chairman had to say about the GOP's chances before this bombshell dropped. Watch.
Look, I think that we have seen an historic shift among younger voters away from the Democratic Party. The fact that Donald Trump is leading Joe Biden among younger voters, that's never happened.
This is one of the reasons that they attacked Amber Rose the way they did. You know, people try to minimize Amber Rose's voice as she spoke at the convention, but as an influencer, she has millions of followers. She is a large part of pop culture. They know that the young people don't want to hear about all the race baiting and things coming out of the Democratic Party's pundits' mouths about racism. And, you know, they have beat the drums of racism so much so that it's falling on deaf ears. It's just like when people back to Africa movements, you know what I mean? Nobody pays attention to that anymore, you know, in the black community. You know, nobody is paying attention to the old slave mentality that comes from the Dixiecrats and being on the Democratic plantation. The young people are not going for it. The young people see Joe Biden clearly. You know, it's the older people that want us to not believe our lying eyes, like we didn't see him in dementia, like we don't know Kamala Harris is Indian. You know what I mean? Like we don't know the difference between a man from a woman. I mean, the Democratic Party is a party of magicians and you know what I mean, and sorcerers or whatever, because they're going to tell you that a man can actually be a woman. Remember, they hired a Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown, to the Supreme Court. And Joe Biden, they proud of her in there. And the first question they ask her is, can you define what a woman is? And she couldn't define what a woman is, but yet she's going to sit on the Supreme Court for the rest of her life. And she's had kids, she's married. She doesn't know that a woman has breasts, ovaries, fallopian tubes, a uterus, you know, XX chromosomes. You know, I know all that, and I'm not a woman or a Supreme Court justice. You know what I'm saying? You have to think about how the people they put in positions on the Democratic Party, they're kind of weird. Like when they asked Fannie Willis what continent she been in, she don't even know the continents. But yet she's a district attorney. Joy Reid comes out and speaks to Black American issues when she's African. Karine Jean-Pierre, African. And they act as if they speak for Black Americans. The Democratic Party is full of shenanigans, to say the least. Let's listen to some more of this. Why they implode.
Doing politics for 40 years, we've never seen that. We're also seeing a historic shift from Black voters and from Hispanic voters and Asian American voters. 20 points that between the support that Donald Trump got in 2020 and the support that he's getting right now. And it's because he is putting solutions on the table. You know, you go back to the families, right? And you got to think about it. Why are Republicans going to win this cycle up and down the ballot all across the country? Because we are listening to the voters. We care about the issues that they care about, and we're putting solutions on the table.
Whatley's confidence is palpable, isn't it? He's saying Republicans are going to win up and down the ballot because they're listening to voters and offering solution. But here's the thing, folks. This was before Biden's expected exit. With Biden out, the Republicans might need to recalibrate their strategy. But make no mistake, they are still feeling confident, and for good reason. They have been hammering the Democrats on issues like the economy, border security, and crime. These are kitchen table issues that resonate with everyday Americans. Let's face it, the chaos we're seeing in the Democrat Party right now only plays into the Republican narrative.
I think you get the picture. So we see their levels of treason. I mean, but the Democrats are the ones who succeeded from the Union and started a civil war in the 1800s because they wanted to keep slaves. So we know they will become treasonous to maintain power. You know, it surprises me that, and I had to say this in my comments to a Black American, the Republican Party was created to oppose Democrats in slavery. That's the origin. You have a lot of so-called woke Black people. Well, I'm not going to vote for either. It doesn't matter. You wasn't going to use your vote sensibly anyway. That's another loss for the Democrats. All you ones that say, I'm not going to vote for either, good. We are glad to hear that because you were one of the ones who were going to vote Democrat. You see the difference? I told you, the people that support Trump, they love and support Trump. Y'all are with the Democrats specifically because you hate Trump. You don't love the Democrats. You don't like Joe Biden. Nobody, no Black person likes Joe Biden. Obama doesn't like him. The Indian woman Kamala doesn't like Joe Biden. No person of color who actually knows Joe Biden personally truly likes him. That's Strom Thurmond's boy. That's the Ku Klux Klan friend. You know, the Democratic Party created the Ku Klux Klan. But that's another story. It's Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Signing to you out of Detroit. This is Detroit's HPTV. Support Detroit's Black Thought and Action Collective, which is the nonprofit out of Detroit. As always, salute to all patriots. Keep your head on the swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.